at my own parents' anniversary party, in front of more than 100 guests. My dad raised his glass, laughed, and said, "You'll never amount to anything." He didn't whisper it. He didn't say it quietly to me on the side. He said it into the microphone, smiling like it was a harmless joke, like it was just another one of his classic punchlines. And everyone laughed. My aunts, my uncles, my mom's friends, even some of my old school teachers. They laughed. I felt my face burn, my chest tighten, and something inside me that had been cracking for years finally shattered. So I stood up, took the microphone from his hand, and said, "Then stop taking credit for everything. I've already done." The room went silent, so fast you could hear the air, conditioning hum. Was I wrong for what I did? Tell me honestly, if your own father humiliated you like that, would you have stayed quiet? To understand why that moment exploded the way it did, you have to know what my life was like growing up with my dad. He's the kind of man people admire from a distance. Successful, confident, charming, always the loudest voice in the room. He built his own construction company from scratch and made a name for himself in our city. People call him self-made. They say he's proof that hard work pays off. What they don't see is how he treats the people closest to him. I'm his only son. From the day I can remember, I wasn't a child to him. I was a project. An extension of his ego. If I got a 95 on a test, he'd ask where the other 5 points went. If I scored a goal in a soccer match, he'd say I should have scored 2. Every achievement came with a but. Every compliment had a condition attached. You did good, but don't get cocky. That's fine. But it's nothing special. It was like he was allergic to letting me feel proud of myself. My mom tried to soften it. She'd tell me he was just pushing me to be better. She'd say, "He believes in you. That's why he's so hard on you." But believing in someone and constantly telling them they're not enough are two very different things. I grew up walking on eggshells, constantly chasing this invisible standard that kept moving further away the closer I got to it. When I was in high school, I discovered I loved graphic design. I'd spend hours in my room creating logos, posters, little branding concepts for imaginary companies. It made me feel alive in a way nothing else did. But when I told my dad I wanted to study design in college, he laughed. Actually laughed. "That's not a real career," he said. "You want to sit behind a computer and draw pictures? Be a man, study business, take over the company one day." I tried to argue, but arguing with him was like shouting into a storm. He always had the final word. So I compromised. I enrolled in business school, like he wanted. But secretly I kept designing. Late at night, after finishing my accounting assignments, I'd work on freelance projects, small jobs at first. Al logo for a local cafe. Social media graphics for a boutique. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And the crazy thing? I was good at it. Really good. Clients started recommending me to their friends. My inbox filled up. By my second year of college, I was making more money from freelance work than most of my friends made it. Part-time jobs. I never told my dad the full extent of it. I knew he'd either dismiss it or worse, try to claim it as proof that his business mindset had rubbed off on me. There was this one moment that should have been a warning sign. I designed a full branding package for a startup that ended up going viral locally. The owner was interviewed on TV and my logo was everywhere. When my dad saw it, he didn't say he was proud of my talent. He said, "See, that's because you understand business. You get that from me." He took my success and rewrote the story so he was the hero. I was just a supporting character in his narrative. Over time, I stopped sharing my wins with him. I learned to celebrate quietly. I finished my degree, but instead of joining his company, I told him I wanted to build my own agency. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. He just looked at me with this cold disappointment and said, "You'll come crawling back when you fail." Those words stuck with me. They fueled me. I worked like my life depended on it. I built my own small design agency from my apartment. I hired 2 other designers, then 3, then 5. We started landing bigger clients, regional brands, tech startups, even a national campaign. By the time I was 28, my agency was profitable, growing, and completely independent of my dad's money or connections. But in his eyes, I was still the kid playing with pictures on a computer. Fast forward to my parents' 30th anniversary party. It was a huge event. They rented a banquet hall, invited everyone they'd ever met. Business partners, family friends, extended relatives. It was basically a celebration of my dad's life disguised as an anniversary. I almost didn't go, but my mom begged me. It would mean a lot to us, she said. So I went. I even brought a generous gift. I paid for their anniversary trip to Italy. First-class tickets, a beautiful hotel, everything. I didn't announce it. I just handed them the envelope privately before the party started. My mom cried. My dad nodded and said, "Nice. Must have saved up for a while." That was it. Then came the speeches. My mom spoke first, thanking everyone for coming, talking about love and partnership. It was sweet. Then my dad took the microphone. He told stories about building his business, about the struggles of early marriage, about how hard he worked to provide for us. People clapped. He thrived on it. And then he started talking about me. "My son," he said, pulling me into the spotlight with his hand. "He's creative," people chuckled, still figuring things out. But hey, not everyone is cut out for real success, right? More laughter. And then the line that made my vision blur. "You'll never amount to anything if you keep playing around." But I guess we all have to learn the hard way. The room laughed again. My ears were ringing. I could feel every eye on me. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others looked amused. My mom looked frozen. That's when something inside me snapped. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. I walked up to him, gently took the microphone and said, "Then stop taking credit for everything I've already done." Silence. Complete silence. I looked around the room and continued. "For those of you who don't know, I own a design agency. We've worked with over 50 companies in the last 3 years. We employ 7 people full-time. And no, my dad didn't fund it. He didn't mentor me. He didn't even believe in me. You could see the shock ripple across faces. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I was calm, and that made it even louder. "So when you say I'll never amount to anything," I added, looking directly at him, "what you really mean is I didn't choose your version of success." He tried to interrupt me, but I kept going. "I spent my entire life trying to prove I was good enough for you. Tonight I realized I don't need to. At that point in the story, I want you to pause for a second. If you were in my position, publicly, humiliated by your own father after years of quiet disrespect, what would you have done? Would you have swallowed it to keep the peace? Or would you have stood up like I did? Before I tell you how it all ended, think about that. Because in that moment, I knew whatever I said next would change our relationship forever. So I handed the microphone back to him. But before I sat down, I added one more thing. And by the way, the Italy trip, that was from the kid who won't amount to anything. You're welcome. A few gasps, a few whispers. Then someone started clapping. I don't even know who it was, but the clapping spread. Not everyone joined. Some people looked horrified. But enough did. My dad's face was red, not embarrassed, angry. He forced a laugh and said, "Looks like someone's sensitive." But the energy in the room had shifted. The illusion cracked. People weren't laughing with him anymore. They were watching him. The rest of the party was awkward. He avoided me. My mom tried to smooth things over, but I could tell she was shaken. A couple of my cousins pulled me aside and said they were proud of me. One of my dad's business partners even whispered, "Good for you." When I got home that night, my phone exploded with messages. Some relatives said I was disrespectful, that I should have handled it privately. Others said it was about time someone called him out. The next morning, my dad called me. No greeting, no small talk. "You embarrassed me," he said. I replied, "You embarrassed me first." There was a long silence. Then he said, "You think you're better than me?" And that's when I realized something. This was never about my success. It was about control. "I don't think I'm better than you," I told him. "I just don't need your approval anymore." He hung up. We didn't speak for weeks after that. For the first time in my life, I felt lighter, like I had finally put down a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. My agency kept growing. I signed a major contract that year that doubled our revenue. I moved into a bigger office. I hired more staff. Eventually, my mom invited me over for dinner. He was there. It was tense, but different. He didn't apologize. I didn't either. But he didn't make any jokes about my career. He asked one neutral question about a project I was working on. It wasn't warmth, but it wasn't contempt either. And for us, that was progress. Our relationship isn't perfect now. It probably never will be. But that night changed the dynamic. He knows I won't sit quietly anymore. He knows I see my own worth even if he doesn't. Looking back, I don't regret standing up. Maybe I could have done it differently. Maybe I could have waited for a private moment. But sometimes when disrespect is public, the response has to be public too. If there's any lesson in all this, it's that you don't have to accept someone else's definition of success. Not even your parents. Especially not your parents. You are allowed to choose your own path, and you are allowed to defend it. So tell me, was I wrong? Was I too harsh? Or was it about time? Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this because trust me, I've got plenty. And share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I read them all. I'll see you all in the next story.